Peacekeeper. So Scott Williams, many of us know on the forums and Facebook and social media for a lot of the water methanol kits, has designed a kit for alternate cooling for our intercoolers and even our external oil coolers, or really any products that use kind of a radiator. USRT Peacekeeper heat defense system basically is a all-in-one package with all the plumbing and nozzles and pump and tap to use your windshield washer fluid reservoir in order to spray fluid on your intercooler or any radiator for that matter to cool it down over time from an evaporative standpoint. So as the system would trigger, and we'll go into that in detail, the pump would kick on and would start spraying about anywhere from 75 to 100 psi through as many nozzles as you want to place in the car. And then that fluid transfer would transfer to the intercooler or the radiator and would cool it down over time as air is rushing in over the surface of a wet intercooler or radiator. Unlike water methanol injection, the kit cools the intercooler via evaporation from the outside to eliminate heat soak. It's basically eliminating heat buildup over time due to the amount of time it takes to evaporate the liquid that's sprayed on the intercooler. There are other products out there on the market, such as cryo kits or cryogenic kits. They will typically use a CO2 canister that's mounted in the trunk, kind of like a nitrous bottle in a sense, and we'll run plumbing to the front of the car, and we'll have a usually a hardline oval shape hardline kit, which will have holes in it or really nozzle orifices to spray CO2. And what that does is it almost freezes the surface or the front of an intercooler. And while that typically does work and cool down an intercooler, it's really cooling only during the period of time that you're on the button or it's triggered in order to spray the CO2 onto the intercooler. Usually once you're off the button or the CO2 has stopped spraying, the intercooler heat soak can really go back up rather quickly. I know this because I've had this kit in the past on a previous car, and the idea now is to go with something that's more of a liquid evaporative cooling option instead of a cryo kit. So really some of the more additional differences between cryo and this USRT Peacekeeper kit is that depending on how much fluid you have in your OEM windshield washer fluid tank, it should hold about a gallon, if not more, of fluid from the factory. If you were to have that tank fully filled and you activate the Peacekeeper kit, it should last for about 15 minutes worth of continuous spray. Cryogenic intercooler cooling kits are appropriate and legal for really drag strip usage. It's illegal almost everywhere else. The USRT Peacekeeper kit is not legal at American drag strips, but is potentially legal in most other forms of racing or motorsports. Other people say also, why not just use methanol? Why would you use a Peacekeeper kit when you can just have a very large post-intercooler methanol nozzle to cool the intake charge? Post-intercooler water methanol does absolutely nothing for reducing intercooler heat soak because the cooling comes after the intercooler. Peacekeeper kit is designed to keep the intercooler from heat soaking, and therefore it also allows the intercooler to cool longer or more efficiently. So the idea is, while under boost, air is compressed, that air heats up, and even while driving, every intercooler will eventually heat soak during normal use, especially during hard use or high boost runs or driving very aggressively. Over time, the intercooler will still heat soak. And an intercooler functions really as a heat sink. And that heat soak over time reduces the intercooler's efficiency and can lower performance by increasing intake air temperatures even a few degrees. Now, if you have water methanol, you're spraying whatever mix you're spraying between water and methanol, just water, 50-50. I mean, everybody uses different ratios and swears by different mixtures. Even if you're using water methanol, this is a tool that can be used. It is an add-on to increase the efficiency of your intercooler and reduce the heat soak. Ultimately, if you're reducing the heat soak in an intercooler and cooling it down, the air that runs from your turbo, through your turbo outlet, through your intercooler inlet, across your intercooler core, out the other end for the intercooler outlet, it has been cooled somewhat by the use of this USRT Peacekeeper kit, because it is spraying liquid on the intercooler, and as the air is passing over it, the evaporative nature of that fluid transferring into gas will cool the intercooler core. Your air intake temps, even before water methanol, will be cooler. Thus, the theory is the air after your water methanol injection will be even cooler than it was without using potentially this USRT Peacekeeper kit or being able to spray liquid on the intercooler core. The idea here for the Peacekeeper is that it can eliminate the heat soak altogether, depending on the size of your intercooler, or just slow it down significantly enough where you're going to gain a few degrees back on the colder side for your air temperatures, and then the water methanol can act even more efficiently. The idea at the end of the day is to get the coldest air at the head of the engine, right? Or through the throttle body, into the intake manifold, into the engine, into the cylinder. You want the coolest and densest air possible. This is a tool to do just that. Take it a step above, just water methanol being used to cool down the intake charge. The USRT Peacekeeper really is a full plumbing package. It's designed for distilled water in the summer. It can use windshield washer fluid really all season. It can use it in the fall, into the winter, into the spring, anytime that there's still cold weather in areas that could freeze water. But the idea is just to use any fluid that can be sprayed on the intercooler. The Peacekeeper kit, and I have a picture up here on my computer that I took previously, but I've already ripped through it and installed it. But I'm going to show you some of the pictures along the way. In this box that comes from USRT, you get a small pump, very lightweight, a check valve, which I also refer to as a quick disconnect, which I'll cover in a little bit. For when I remove the bumper, I'm able to actually disconnect the line or the hose from this check valve. So it's actually serves two purposes between a check valve and also quick disconnect for a bumper removal. High atomizing spray nozzles, which spray in a conical pattern. A ton of flexible hose for you to route inside your bumper, along your frame, rebar, anywhere that you have a location to mount these nozzles. There's plenty of hose that comes with the kit for you to be able to route it any which way and get the nozzles where you want it. Your existing factory windshield washer fluid tank, install the tap, and then you instantly can connect that with a push lock fitting to the pump. It also comes with ABS plastic strips and flexible hose holders, which I'll show you. Just some little pieces and bits that allow you to mount the nozzles wherever you want. In terms of switch control, the pump really is an on-off pump, positive, negative wire. You can control it with or install it with whatever controller you want. I've actually opted for the USRT boost trigger, which is a boost trigger, but this is it, and that has come in. I'm in the process of installing this and working with Chris Dollery at Double Apex to get a center mount console button made to switch this on or off, and then even override it for when I want to spray, potentially if I'm at a light or cruising around and I don't want to rely on a boost setting to actually kick off the spray and soak the intercooler to then cool it down. But you can control it with a simple boost trigger. That's what I'm going to be doing here, again with an override button. You can also control it with something like a Cortex electronic boost controller or one of your TorqueBite outputs. I wouldn't put it on a pulse width or PWM TorqueBite output. I have all of my outputs in my TorqueBite CM5LT completely used up between aux injectors and a pulse width direct port water methanol solenoid, and then I have my other outputs going for the low pressure fuel pump control and also the water methanol pump itself. So what I opt to do is install a separate boost trigger in order to control the system and when it sprays, when that button activates it or doesn't activate it or disengages it. And then there's actually going to be another feature in the button that you can hold down and it will override, and it will actually just go straight to the pump and turn it on for as long as I hold the button, or a timed amount like 10 seconds or so. And then if possible, once you have all of the nozzles mounted and connected, test the pump pressure. So just run the ground from the wire to the chassis and then run a power wire over to the battery and just touch the positive on the battery and let the pump run. If you have the ability to get a gauge, take the gauge and try to plug it in and see if you can get pump pressure as close as possible to 100 PSI. I think a good rule of thumb here is that if you're running 6 to 7 nozzles, I think bottoming the screw out on the pump is the best way to go, because it's going to ensure that you're going to get the highest pressure. I don't really think anyone's going to get over 100 PSI on this little pump with that many nozzles and running the distance of line that we're running. So, but it's just good to test. And then really in terms of cabin noise, while the pump is running, you barely hear it. It's quiet. It also depends on where you mount it and how you mount it. If you're able to mount it by all of the 4 rubber feet that are on the pump itself, it'll be less vibration. For myself, the way I have it mounted, strapped to the OEM windshield washer fluid tank, I still don't really hear it inside. I'm definitely not really going to hear it when I'm driving the car, or especially at high boost. So it's really not a concern for me at all. And then so aside from covering the parts and showing the install and the video of the spray pattern, I'm going to show you a demo with the bumper on for soaking the intercooler shortly. But as I turn around, this is now with the bumper on. So just to show you how sleek it looks and how you really can't tell. This is on the driver's side, right? So Gulf R fog light grill, that's an intercooler pipe. And then you can see the external oil cooler. It's a Cetrab oil cooler. You can see right underneath there the nozzle. And the way that nozzle lines up, it looks like it's spraying at the front end of the oil cooler, but with the rush of air, it's going to push that fluid back along deeper into the oil cooler since it's on an angle. And then the lower grill, you have the PAG Parts intercooler front mount, and you can't see the nozzles. Again, they are underneath in here, down in there, spraying up, and then as that air comes in, it's going to push it back into there. And then the top nozzles are sitting right behind here and are spraying in a conical pattern back this way. And then eventually when they spray, they will drip down and cover the intercooler. And then on the other side, there's nothing. So I'm going to try to shoot a demo right now of the spray pattern. All right, and here is a spray pattern. Hard to see, but it is misting a lot in there. You can see the spray pattern in there. It is misting a lot. And so I even installed some black lights in there with some UV dye to show you the cooling or the spray pattern effect that's coming in there. And it's not lighting up as well as I want it to, but it is really wetting down the intercooler. Now just imagine that at driving speed, air blasting on that wet surface of the intercooler and potentially the external oil cooler or any other radiator you may run. The last thing I wanted to put together and show was really how the pump sits behind a GTI bumper or a Gulf R bumper on a on the passenger side. So within here, it's really set back in there. I mean, you're talking 6 inches back in there. You can see the pump all the way in the back there. The tank top, which is good
and bad. It's exposed with this type of grill. The GTI obviously has the fog light in there. I don't think you're going to have any issue, as the fog light housing really sits more back on this side. Back here, you're not going to have an issue on the GTI bumper. On the Golf R bumper, the good thing is you can see directly in there, so I can look and I can see if that tank top fitting is ever leaking. I could even probably get a wrench in there if I wanted to. I can see if my quick disconnect is leaking, any of the pump fittings, anything like that. I can take a look and see right through the grill. But as you stand back, you really don't see it. But as you come down onto ground level and you look kind of up and back, you can see everything in there. But for the most part, I do have all the stuff exposed. I could put the backing that came with the bumper on this to protect all that. It's really just open now for me to keep a monitor on a lot of stuff that's in there, all the electronics and the all of the tank top fittings. So really, at the end of the day, that is the USRT Peacekeeper heat defense kit. I'm excited to get out there. I will put some data up at some point. I'll run it with and without to see, how many degrees of cooling. There's a great YouTube video out there from Mighty Mods, which shows it on the dyno and shows when they spray their intercooler, they do drop their IATs.
In this episode of Mighty Car Mods, we're going to show you how to make a budget DIY water intercooler spray.
It's just like wiping your bottom with an ice cube.
What?
Pretty substantially. I think it was, I think even up to like 10 degrees from what I can recall. But, it's a great kit. It's, it's inexpensive from USRT. It's well put together. The fittings are very high quality. It's literally a plug and play system other than running a wire to the ground and a wire to a controller or to a power button or power source. Everything else is plug and play. 3M tape, completely reversible. Pumps high quality. Again, the fittings are high quality. Everything that comes with the kit is perfect for this, kind of setup or application. And it's really take your bumper off and spend a day and you'll have it completely done. Then once you're connected to a controller and you're on the road, you can be enjoying better or cooler IATs with or without water methanol injection. I'll have a lot of those photos that I showed earlier in higher quality resolution on my Instagram page over a few days or a week or two. So Instagram is at because HYDE16. So just hop on there. You can see more of the photos, ask questions, and I'll post up some more videos. And then once I get this on the road, I can get either some more videos or I can get some data logs when the weather turns from 30 degrees here in New Jersey to some actual warm temperatures again, where I'm going to need this system. So, all right, guys, take care.